thing now with the, you know, I actually used it to explain it to my kids.
Excellent.
Which was really, really helpful.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah, well, thank you, because I really found that before that sort of understanding, just using words, wasn't actually registering.
Yeah.
Depending on something, but as soon as you add the colour to it, it was like, oh, Ben, you know.
Excellent. Hi, Pauline.
Hello. How are we?
We're great. How are you? Thank you.
Yeah, good. Good. I'm ready to go to bed now, but yeah, I'm good.
I think we're all feeling a bit like that.
Far out. Nothing. It's not stopping lately, but it's all good. All good. But anyway, so I apologise, ladies. I had to do this again. I went to do the editing of the video and I thought it was recording.
Well, it said recording.
So I was told that possibly I paused it and forgot to put it on. I thought I had, you know. Anyway, so it wasn't there anyway. It was you and I, Margaret, talking for the first 10 or 15 minutes and then nothing else. Okay. So I just thought we'd mainly get on and just do the crux of the...
Sure.
You know, the main thing about the colour wheel is probably the most valuable out of it, and a couple of, you know, little pointers that I felt that people need to know about their teenagers. You know,
sure.
Not so bad after all, kind of thing. And it's about, you know, parents taking on their responsibilities and you know, stepping back and having a look at the situation, that kind of stuff, rather than... Sure. You know, that's all I really want. And so I need to record that. So, you know.
Absolutely, that's fine. Just one thing too, did you get the paperwork I sent?
When did you send that, today?
This afternoon to your email, yeah.
It's probably there.
That's fine. That's fine. I just ask that you use it in its entirety. So don't chop and change it around, because the first of all, the colour stuff is on the top as to what the, you know, what the habits and of different behaviours. And on the bottom, there's just a little synopsis of each of the colours as how to deal with them. But on the bottom of that are my contact details. So I created that. So if you can just leave it as one, thing, rather than pull it apart, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep, that's no worry. So what I was just going to do is attach it into a post, either with this or second to this, like a takeaway. This is the takeaway from, you know, whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, no problem. Too easy.
Okay.
All right, so we're ready?
Yeah, when you're ready, yeah.
Oh, I'm already recording, so I'm going to have to go and edit this bit. This is where I hate setting up the Zoom to record beforehand, because then I stop and start, and then maybe that's what I did. Anyway, I'll go and edit it later. But anyway, all right, very good. So I'll just, hi, my name's Pauline Duncan, and I'm the coach running the Fund Back to Basics Facebook group. And I've got guest speaker Margaret Smith on here with us today, and a lovely homeschooling mum, Melissa. And we're just going to talk to you a little bit about communicating and behaviours to do with teenagers. Margaret speaks to schools and businesses and parents about how the best way is to go about communicating with each other, as in adults, but also with children. And there's a big focus on teenagers, because, you know, teenage years are a very challenging period of life. And, you know, they can be, you know, it's so challenging that we think, you know, they're all can be, you know, what's going on here. So part of that is out of their control, because that's their development from childhood to adult years. But it's also things that we can look at in their behaviours that might help us connect and interact with our teenagers a little bit easier. So I wanted to bring Margaret on here to talk to us a little bit further. She has a fantastic tool that she uses to explain the differences between people's behaviours and how to connect with them. So I'll hand that over to you. Margaret, can you share us that tool that you have?
Thanks, Pauline, and thank you for the invitation. I am always happy to speak with people and explain the behaviours to them, both adults and children, as you say. The one thing that I would just like to point out is your children's behaviours, like yours, are something that is innate in them from the day they're born. So it's part of their DNA. Your child, if you look back on their life, once you decide which behaviour it is that they follow, which behaviour path, you will actually notice that that's the kind of behaviour they've fairly much had all their life. So if they're the kind of kid that gets up and gets going and does stuff, they've done that pretty much all of their life. You might not have noticed it. You know, parents get very busy, but when you really start to dissect your behaviour or other people's and your children, that behaviour is there all the time. So the thing with behaviours is we have one behaviour that's our true behaviour. So it's the one that we default to all the time. It's the one that we sit in where we use very little energy. We're very comfortable there. And like I say, it does show itself. So I went through a presentation quite a few years ago now in direct selling. And the reason we did is because, well, what was beneficial to me, should I say, is that when I listened to the guy that was presenting it, all of a sudden I realised why some of the people in my teams didn't understand what I was saying. I was training them the way I was taught to train and doing what I was taught to do. However, nobody had thought to dissect it enough to understand each person's individual behaviour. So as I was listening to him, I was thinking, oh, that's Mary and that's Joe and that's everybody. And what I learned to do was figure out everyone in my team's behavioural pattern and then speak and deal with them differently. And I had some amazing results. So this is what we do with our children if you want to figure out the kind of person they are. So I have a presentation, and the simplicity is it's 4 colours. Okay, so we have red, yellow, green, and blue. Now, I know there's a lot of behavioural processes out there, a lot of presentations. I understand that. What I say to you and to your parents and anyone that I'm doing presentations for is if you like this one, stick with it. Don't go, oh, well, Margaret taught me the colours, but oh, look over there, that's a different one. Maybe I should try that one or try that one. You know, science has gone into this. We can actually, you know, let you know what behaviour your child has. So if this one sounds good to you and it works for you, because it is quite easy to understand and put into practice, stick with it, keep with it, keep reinforcing it. It'll be good for you and your children. So we have the 4 colours. So red, they're roughly 15 to 17% of the population. You will know a red child or a red partner or a red friend because they are very highly driven. So they are goal-focused kind of people. You'll see this in your children already. You'll see your child who actually can get up and already at their young age want to run a business or want to do something that requires that kind of thing. They are constantly on the go. They've got ideas in their heads all the time. They move quickly, they think quickly, they do things quickly, and they're kind of the managers in life and the people directing traffic. So they're the ones who finger point and go, do that, what do you want me to do? So they're very quick and driven all the time. If there's a better way to do something, a red person will find it. So if you have a teenager who constantly is sort of, you know, dealing with things in that way, they're driven to do things, they don't seem to need your help. You know, sometimes as a parent we think we need to step in, but you know, these kids have their way. They already have their path. You know, they know exactly where they're going. So they're very driven. They're goal-focused, goal-set kind of people, and they aspire to have money. So if you've got a child who goes, you know, I'm getting out and I'm doing something because I want money to buy this or buy that or do something else, you can almost know that your child is a child with a lot of red behaviours in them. Just in saying that too, we can all have a little bit of all the colours. So we're not just specifically that one colour and nothing of anything else. So a red child would have a bit of yellow, bit of green and bit of blue, but the majority of their behaviours will be red. That's the kind of person that they are. So like I say, there's only 15 to 17%. So when you speak with these kids, you've got to speak quickly. You've got to be very precise about you want. Don't give them any fluff. They're not interested in those kind of stories. They'll ask you a question. They just want an answer. They don't need you to go into some long-winded explanation. Just answer what they ask. You'll find they'll use the word what a lot. What do you want? What can I do? What? That is a red person's word. So you may already be thinking about your child thinking, well, yeah, that's how he speaks to me. It's not anything that's rude. That is how they work. So then we have yellow. So yellow's a bit of an emotional colour. There's 35% of people that are yellow. So a yellow person, as opposed to being a director and telling people what to do, they're the kind of child that you have that will want to help other people, but not to the detriment of themselves. So they're happy to be around the house or at school helping people to achieve, but they're not the kind of child that people stand all over and take advantage of. So they're leaders. These are the people who will lead people. They'll say, come with me, I'll show you how to do it. And if they don't know how to do it, they'll show them again and again and again, because they're the social people. You know, they gather in groups, they like to be around people. They're the kind of people who network a lot. Chances are, if you have a child like that, they will tend to gather in groups. They need to be around people to energize themselves. They like that. People trust them a lot. So if you've got a child that people seem to trust, they ask advice of all the time. And they just generally want to help people in a nice, giving, generous way, but like I say, not to their own detriment. Chances are they're yellow. They're the ones that are happy and fun and, you know, bringing a bit of life to everybody. Jokes on you and they think they have a great sense of humour. They're your yellow children. Then we have green. So green is also an emotional colour. Now, green want to help people as well. People always just help. People pile things on top of them. You know, they just want to help everybody. That will be their lot in life. They will be the kind of person that will serve others. They will live in the service of other people. So as they get older, they might think about being nurses or doctors or carers, you know, those kinds of people. So they are slower, more methodical. They take a long time to make up their mind. They need to know all the facts before they make decisions. You know, they just like to know everything. And whereas yellow people like to be around people and they love to talk, green enjoy that, but really their focus is making sure that everybody just has a good time. They don't like confrontation. They'll actually step away from that. So yeah, but they're an emotional, giving, generous, loving kind of behaviour. But like I say, just remember, people will take advantage of them, including their siblings. If you've got siblings and you've got a green and a red, for example, a red person's quite strong in behaviour, they're dominant, they will cowl over the top of your green behaviour. So you need, as a parent, to understand and speak to your child and explain to them that you're not the same. This is what happens when you speak in that manner. You know, it's never looked on nicely by a green person, because quite frankly, they don't want any arguments. They just want to get on with life. And, you know, very generous, you know, I call them tree huggers. You know, my green kids are tree huggers. They love everything. They, you know, they live on the fringe of life if they could. As they get to adulthood, they may decide to live off the grid. You know, they're those kind of people. They don't need processes and work schedules and all those kind of things. They'd be very happy to just, you know, loll around and work on a beach somewhere. They don't need all the trimmings that other people need. And then blue. So our blue, they're 15%. You can't not recognise a blue person, because blue people are always right. They are always right. You can't argue with them because they truly believe they are always right. They're very methodical, process driven. They can tell you things that happened years ago. They're list makers. They make little notes. They always like to know where they're going. They don't like you to change the plan once you've got the plan. You know, they don't actually understand that they're not always right, but a blue person works hard not to be wrong. So they constantly checking things. You know, accountants, I mean, they need to constantly be checking, because the last thing a blue person wants is for someone to tell them they're wrong. And that's why they're constantly checking over and over again. Very process driven. Anyone, you know, building people who work on buildings that have to, you know, decide, you know, how high it can be, and all, you know, those people, I can't think of what their name is, but those people, they have a blue process mind along with an accountant. So yeah, so they're your 4 behaviours. So if you think about it, your children goal set and really don't need your help much. Or they're yellow, they're having a bit of fun, they like other people, you know, they like to gather around people, and they're very accepting of all people, and other people accept them because they trust them. Or there's your green, and you know the greens, they cowl away from everybody else because they don't want arguments, they don't want loud noise. And then your blues, who are always right. So, you know, none of these behaviours to them are wrong. So we all have our own behaviour and we think we're right. But what we need to understand is we're not always seen in a good light by other people. And this is where the behavioural thing comes in. So if you have a red child and a green child, the red child's very fast, getting stuff done, wants it now, you know, and a green one's slower. The red one doesn't understand. Why can't you do it? I can do it. Why don't you do it? Get it done. I want it done now. And the green one goes, oh, please, I can't do it. Mum, you know, he wants me to do this, so I can't do that. And they need to understand that those colours, whilst we're all fabulous people and you know, we should be enjoying who we are, we need to deal with people differently. And your children need to understand that they need to, even now at their age, look at other people and go, they're not like me, and change people's behaviours. But we can adapt, and we can learn to deal with everything in life. You know, the way you act and speak is seen by everyone. You need to make sure that the behaviour that you show is the behaviour that you want to portray, because especially today, you know, with social media, you've only got to do something wrong and it's there forever. So it's really important that kids learn to understand they need to really think about what they say, what they do, because it's going to be there forever. But like I say, this is also a really, really easy to understand presentation. Great results with the kids, you know, coming and saying, and that was terrific, I never thought of that, and is that why my father speaks like that, and is that why my brother speaks? And you're aware as parents with your children. That's what the message is.
Thanks, Margaret. That cut in a little bit in and out with the internet. So the last bit of your message was about the last bit with you, the parent is, and we missed that little bit there. Can you recall what you said?
Was that the parents need to be aware of what their behaviours are and speak with them and make sure that the kids understand, yeah, they're going into adulthood, you know, as they get, you know, to teenage years. How they're seen by everybody is very important. But you as a parent also need to be aware that they see you in the light of your behaviour as well. So you need to be aware of the way you're behaving.
Absolutely. I think you just described my twins to a T. As I've mentioned to others before, that I've got an Asperger daughter who's very red and blue, but her twin would be very blue-green. You know, actually no, sorry, not blue-green, green-yellow. And it's like they are polar extremes.
They are, yes.
And they are fighting all the Madam Red Blue can't only gives one word answers for his test and gets a, you know, just equal amount of, you know, marks she does when she expounds, and it's like, yeah.
I think the thing is with behaviours is really, even in our children, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about adults, but even in your children, they will gather with people who have opposite behaviours to them without even really realising it's a subconscious thing, because they look for some of those other behaviours that they have that they don't. So they gather with people who have a behavioural type completely opposite to them. And in your case, I know with Asperger's it's a little different because that's a different kind of behavioural issue. But, you know, maybe the way, if you have opposite children, is actually to get them to sit down every so often and go, okay, so what is something you see in your brother that you would like to be more like? And start to get them to think about what the behaviours of their siblings are, because everybody wants a little bit of everyone's behaviour. You know, most people would love to be more red. They would love to be able to stand up to other people. They would really like to be able to stand up, but they don't have enough red in them to, I mean, green people. Imagine a green child trying to stand up. It just doesn't work. But if you can bring them together and go, okay, what are the things you see in him that you like, and what are the things you see there? Maybe they could come together on some common ground.
Yes, no, I hadn't thought of that. That's a great idea, actually. I mean, they're always trying to find a type of some dislikes and social abilities. Hasn't been able to find anything as yet. But no, that's a good idea. I will try that. Thank you.
And like we talked about, the children that have issues like Asperger's, ADHD is a different thing, and that's a different thing that parents need to learn and understand how to work with those behaviours and that form of communication. So in general, we're talking about in, I guess, the general population, but some of this can still apply to those children. But for parents, don't think that, I guess, this is the only tool that you need. You also need to understand that disability and how they, or learning behaviour, or whatever, sorry, the terminology we call it these days. But it's just, that's another thing on its own. But it's,
well, it is. I mean, but an ADHD child would tend to be more over the top. So that'd be more of a, they wouldn't be your emotional behaviour. You're looking at blue-red. I mean, you know, I've had quite a bit, as I said to you, in Darwin, lived and worked for a long time with people who live with disabilities, and worked a lot around half a dozen children. And I didn't understand this back then. I was just going in, they told me what to do, I did it, and I went home. I didn't understand the behavioural thing. But when I look back, I realised that those ones with ADHD are really blue-red. They have that kind of behaviour. Yeah, and I had it work with a girl who had Prader-Willi, and she was more green. She was just a gentle giant, I called her, for want of a better word. So she had a behavioural trait as well. So yeah, if you look deep enough, there's still an underlying behaviour in there. You know your children better than anything, and you would look at them and go, I see a bit of that in you. And so there is a behaviour under there.
And it's very good to explain why there is clashes within the dynamics. It's not only the teenagers going through their hormonal and their changes and development, but it's also just that personality clashing until they understand, or are guided to understand, where the others are coming from. And even as your partners and people in general, really. I think it's a very, very good simple tool and a good visual tool to keep that in mind. It makes it a bit easier to understand, and it's a good way for people to understand in general, children or adults, because it's that visual colour representation of everything.
That's right. I mean, you know, I don't know about you, but at any time I wanted my kids to learn anything, I stuck it on the toilet door. So, you know, when we were little, our times table were there, and my kids' times tables were there. But I got to tell you, you know, on the back of the toilet door, you could put, you know, 4 things. One says a red person speaks like this and does this. A green person does this. You know, they look at it often enough. It's like anything. If you look at something often enough, eventually it will start. That's exactly right. So you adapt it according to the children, to your kids. And all I know is this process works. I've seen adults and children change when they understood they needed to deal with people differently. So when everyone understands that they need to deal differently with people, you see change.
And how a lot more harmony in the family.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
And productivity.
workplaces is one of the biggest ones. When you get everybody understanding how everyone's behaviour work, and then they think, okay, well, I need to get something from that red person. The red person needs to get something from the green person. Instead of going, I need that this afternoon, they go, okay, I'm going to give them 2 days. So they ask them earlier because they know a green person takes a lot longer. They have to think about something. They have to make sure all the information's there. They need a bit more time to think. Yellow people talk a lot. So red people want them to tell them just to be quiet, but they need to understand, okay, well, I'll just give them a little bit more time. But then the yellow and green need to understand they need to lift up and go, okay, well, if I want to do something for a red person, I've got to make myself available to do it a bit faster. So it's everyone coming together. It's not just one behaviour sitting back and dealing with the rest of them. Everybody has to come to the party and understand everyone else's behaviours.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. That was really, really valuable. Again, thank you very much.
No worries, you're welcome.
For the hiccup from last week, but very good. I need to go and do my next one.
Fantastic. Oh, good for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm going to do that toilet thing. My husband can still basically repeat all the National Geographic birds that he grew up with on the back of the toilet door.
We were taught the colours of the rainbow. We were taught the colours of the rainbow when we were kids. Roy G. Biv. I was taught that when I was about 6. I have never forgotten it, and it used to be up on the toilet door.
Absolutely.
At school, not at home. At school.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
Teachers, schools could be so much smarter if they put stuff in front of kids. You know, the thing is too, at school, they're trying to teach one way to all kids. So you can already understand why this doesn't work, because you've got red, yellow, green and blue kids. You teach, they all learn and understand differently. A red person will learn very quickly. They make decisions quickly. They're onto it. A red person will be onto it. Whether they get it right or not, doesn't matter. They got the guts of it. Yellow people, they're not so bad. Green people flounder. They do. They flounder at school because not one size fits all. So that's another, because then goes another thing we need to do. Look at the way our children are taught.
I agree.
Totally. I have 3 completely different learners in this house. So which way you work with them is completely differently. What you offer them is differently. The choices that they do have or are given or what they choose are so opposite.
So you already know that you have a son that's a red. He doesn't need a lot of your time. You just need to give him what he needs. If he wants to be in business or do something like that, you need to lead him in that direction. Give him his own time to do his own thing. He really doesn't need you flustering around underneath him. Just point him in the right direction. How old is he?
About to turn 14.
Okay. Yeah, by the time I was that age, I knew what I was doing. I was already moving forward, and he will move forward, you know. But look at your other 2 and decide, what are their colours? Do they need help? How can I help them? Yeah, and do it that way. But you really don't need to worry about your 14-year-old. He's already on top of it. He knows what he wants. He's driven. You never stop that drive. Encourage him to be driven, always.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is.
Thank you so much. Very
No
grateful.
worries.